It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That's from the Cigar Chronicles, and that's Pride in the Name of Love. And singing the lead vocal on that is our good friend CJ Snare of Firehouse, backed up by George Lynch and Jeff Pilson, formerly of Dokken. And we had Justin Murr from Liberty and Justice on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was rather, I don't know if the word is flattered or put off by Chris and I kind of goofing on the new CD a little bit. But he did share the CD with some of his project mates, and one of them being CJ Snare of Firehouse. And we wanted to bring CJ onto the show and get his take on our CD review, as it were. So welcome to the Classic Metal Show there, CJ.
Thanks very much, Neely. Where the heck is Chris? No, I'm kidding. I only get half the team. I understand. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
Well, CJ, I told you off air that, you and I have, hung out on a few occasions over the years. And, I've had your bandmate, Bill Leverty, on the show numerous times. And, obviously, you're involved with other things outside of Firehouse, and one of them being this Liberty and Justice with Justin Murr. And Justin was very cool about coming on the show, even though Chris and I kind of beat up on you a little bit. And we understand you got a few choice words for us.
No, actually, I thought that your critique was extremely funny.
Well, that was the whole idea, actually, yeah.
Right. Well, as Justin called me, he's like, "So what'd you think?" I laughed the whole way through. I thought it was so entertaining. It was kind of like Beavis and Butthead, like, what was that? Like, that sort of thing, And you're like, CJ's out of breath and enunciating every word.
Right.
And I fell to the floor. I thought it was just so funny. This is not my project. I mixed the project. You guys brought forth, there's this electronica stuff, and that was J.K. Northrup, who's actually a member of Liberty and Justice. He likes to use his loops in these arrangements he did. Justin first approached me nearly, when he started this thing in 2008 or 2009. It was a while back, and it was when Phil Lewis had sung You're So Vain.
Right.
And he presented the whole concept to me, and he said, we're going to do, like, really oddball covers, like, the Macarena or, YMCA or Bop and stuff that people in the genre love to hate. But we're going to arrange them in a rock way that it's going to be different. And I got kind of excited about the undertaking after I heard the arrangements that J.K. had done. He likes to use a lot of loops and electronica things and make his songs different. I think that's kind of cool. And a lot of people, as you well know, jumped on board. A lot of serious artists from the classic metal era decided they wanted to participate in it too. And Justin asked me if I would mind mixing it. So I didn't choose the songs. I didn't arrange the songs. I merely sang on the one. I originally told him I wanted to do Stuck in the Middle with You, and then I changed my mind and wanted to collaborate with George Lynch and Jeff Pilson on the one. And that was fun. And that's really, I don't have anything really bad to say. It's not my music you're attacking.
Right. And it isn't even the music that we were attacking. We were just wondering why. Why?
What did Justin say? What was his answer?
Well,
he's the guy who chose it.
Yeah, well, at least he owned up to that, and he said, I chose these songs. They were definitely, out of the ordinary covers that you would even think of, and he just said, I just did it to be quirky in a way, just to do different. And it is different, but, it's different in a way that some people could say, wow, what an interesting take on that song. Other people say, there's a guy who kind of built. Well, no. This is where I'm going with this. Here's a guy who's worked the last 10 or 15 years to build up a reputation. Why would he want to taint his reputation by doing something like this? You know, it's almost like putting spilling paint on a masterpiece. You know, it's like after 10 or 12 years of doing such great work, you tarnish it by doing something really bizarre like this, you know. And it's just like, I get the straight ahead guitar, drums, bass, great singer angle, but then when you add all the looping and the electronica and the this and the that, it's just like, oh boy, this is almost like techno pop dance stuff, you know. And don't feel bad about that. And I know, like you said, you didn't pick these songs, but
yeah, I don't.
But the Scorpions did a record back in the late '90s called Eye to Eye. I don't know if you ever heard it, but it was horrible. And I had both Klaus Meine and Matthias Jabs on the show at different times, and I beat both of them up for that. And both of them basically tried to distance themselves from that record, saying, well, it was the producer's idea. He was the one who told us we should go this direction. It's like, well, you're the band. Don't you have a choice in the matter? So from big names to lesser known names, if it's good product, we'll say, man, that kicked ass, that rocked. If it's not so good, we'll tell you so as well. But as you said, in a very humorous way, and I'm glad you got the joke.
Oh, let me tell you something. As I said, I'm not Liberty and Justice. I'm the guy they sent this to mix. Okay? I didn't arrange it. I didn't put the stuff on there. I did, like you said just a moment ago, there's going to be a group of people who go, wow, that's really cool, and that's an interesting take on that song. I would have never thought of that. And I think that was in Justin's mind. It was certainly in mine, too. And probably each and every one of those serious artists who said, yes, I will be part of this. We looked at it that way. But we also knew full well that it was a lampoon to some degree. And that's fine. You know, I'll tell you what, one of the things you said was about, who's this Chris Green guy playing with Phil Lewis? Well, Chris Green is actually my partner in my side project, and it's called Rubicon Cross.
Okay. And
it is heavy metal, heavier than Firehouse. It's modern hard rock. We released a limited edition EP just as a teaser, and we got all kinds of great press and everything. We are currently shopping a major label deal right now. We were going to have Mike Wengren from Disturbed play on it. He was all behind it as they're taking their break in between albums right now. And I was at his house for his housewarming party because we live about 6 doors down from each other. He's like, dude, you know, we were all talking about it and everything, and he was coming over into the band, and Dan Donegan, the guitarist from Disturbed, was there. And he's like, I finally left. I walked home, stumbled home, rather. And, you know, Dan said, you were up CJ's butt all night long. I wanted to talk to you about a side project that I have. And so Mike called me the next day and said, hey, dude, you know, he's my bro. I've been with him in the trenches, you know. I hope you understand, but I'll tell you what, I'll help you out. I'm going to take it to my manager and to my label because I love the music. It's heavy. I mean, if Mike Wengren's going to play on it, you know that it's heavy. And so it was funny to me that you said also, Rubicon Cross must be a Christian band, because you would associate that with Justin, because
right.
He did that born-again Christian thing,
sure,
or whatever it is that he does. But he does a lot of secular music. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I think that's the proper terminology.
Yeah, secular music that's outside of a religious, you know, based type music.
Right. And so, you know, Chris also played in another very heavy band. He's English. He's from England too, like Phil. And it was called Furion, and they didn't really get a lot of success, but super heavy. The guy who produced the Rubicon Cross stuff did Bullet for My Valentine, Shine Down, Dark New Day. It's that kind of thing. It's what I'm doing on the side, so this is fun for me, you know. If you've heard Firehouse live recently, or I'm not out of breath. And I can still sing like I sang 20 years ago. A lot of people are telling me, and I take a lot of pride in that. So this was fun. I had such a good time doing this, and, like the whole idea of staying alive. They're like, let's totally break it down to just an acoustic guitar. And I suggested to Justin, I said, man, I know Kip Winger. I think he'd be perfect for this. I called Kip up, and he agreed to do it, and, you guys, you didn't rag on that one.
No, we actually liked it. We thought that was a decent cover. Because he did it. I don't know. He did it in a very classic way, I guess. It didn't sound cheesy.
But he didn't do it. I mean, I got to let you know, all these arrangements are J.K. Northrup and Justin Murr. So they're the brains behind this. I mean, J.K.'s playing all the rhythm guitars. They'll bring in, like Bill plays on the original side of this Cigar Chronicles. He had no idea that he was going to be playing on Sin, which happened to be Janie Lane's last recording that he did before he died.
Sure.
He just did a solo. He didn't know who the singer was going to be. The rhythm tracks are done by J.K. in his studio, Alien Productions, in Sacramento, California.
Right.
It's kind of wild how musicians can collaborate from different places now. And I'm one of those guys that's on the side of, you know what, this isn't what I normally do, but this is a lot of fun. I got behind Justin's idea because I thought that maybe splattering the paint on the masterpiece might be cool.
Well, how did you get involved with Justin to begin with? I mean, where did your relationship with him begin?
He was doing we've done a lot of things. He's done a lot of records. He did Light It Up, and he approached me to sing on it. I've been approached by a lot of people to sing on different projects, and I never said yes. And he had this song called What Do You Believe? And it had Vic Rivera on it, and I said, dude, I called him up, and we started talking, and we built a rapport, and, I really like this song, but I said, do you mind if I rewrite it? And Justin, if he's listening to this, he'll laugh, because he went, no, man, put your mojo on it, take your artistic license, and go to town. And so I did, and he's like, well, thanks. You kept two of my lyrics in there, and you basically changed the melody, and, and we did this song called What Do You Believe? Okay, and Bill Leverty played the guitar solo on it, and, these other musicians played the rest of the stuff. And I mastered and worked on that, and he liked the sound of what I did so much that he asked me if I would mix Cigar Chronicles version 1, disc 1. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. And I got my feet wet that way. And Justin's a fun guy. We had a really good time. He is sort of like a quirky mastermind of music. Now he's taken the whole thing in a different direction with a band.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to do a whole original thing and everything like that. So I think it's kind of cool. He's a nice guy. He's a good friend. I've got my studio. I mix for a lot of other bands. And he liked my mixes and brought me on board.
Excellent.
That's about the long and short of it there,
sure.
really.
Now, where did you learn your mixing skills? Is it just over time and being involved with the music, or do you have any kind of, formal education, or did you just learn as you went along, or where's your background come from when doing that?
Well, yes and yes and yes to all your questions, and I think it always starts with the ears. If your ears work, then that's the first step that you need to be able to enter into this kind of field. And also, having worked with people like Ron Nevison and David Prater and Chris Lord-Alge and Eric Schilling and all the people through Firehouse's career, always wanted to be part of that. You pick up a lot of things through osmosis. We also had an engineer named Mark Severns, and he used to be an instructor at Full Sail. So as we would be doing our sessions just out of habit as a teacher at Full Sail, which is a pretty famous recording school down in Orlando, Florida, and he would always, say the commands aloud and everything like that. So I learned Pro Tools. I started doing my own things. I watched these guys. I asked questions. So I got to train through some of the best, most well-known. I don't know if you know Chris Alge or Ron Nevison, for example, did
Well, he did Guns N' Roses, and he did the band Chicago, and
Bad Company.
Yeah, Bad Company. He does anything from harder rock to classic rock to mainstream pop music.
Right, and Chris Alge mixes for everybody. I mean, he did the Black Parade for My Chemical Romance, and he did the band called Hailstorm, and he does everybody. I mean, from pop to heavy. He did our third album. And, working with him, too, you just get to see so much. And Eric Schilling, real big Grammy award-winning guy down in Miami. He does a lot of that. Actually, he was in Gloria Estefan's studio where we did our Good Acoustics album for Firehouse. And great learning experience there as well. David Prater did our first and second record. Doug Oberkirker was the engineer on that. And David Prater also did Dream Theater's first album.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's my training is being alongside of these guys, having the interest, making the investment to buy my own studio, establishing a clientele, having them come in, and just doing it for so many years now. I have a full schedule right now of mixing. So when I'm not out touring with Firehouse or Rubicon Cross, you should look it up, dude. It's on iTunes. Listen to our EP of Rubicon Cross.
Okay.
It's called Limited Edition EP. And then you need to get in touch with me, shoot me an email, or call me back on the phone here, and let me know what you think.
Okay.
I'd love to hear the critique on that, because that's my real stuff.
All right. Well,
Firehouse.
We'll do that. I promise you we'll make that happen. Well, I'm going to give you a personal story here, CJ, about the first time I saw Firehouse live.
Okay.
You guys were opening on the Poison Damn Yankees tour back in 1993, I believe it was.
Yeah, that was Native Tongue tour.
Yeah, and I actually felt bad for you guys because you guys got robbed of any lights or any real sound, and I tell this story on the show because, I like you guys. I like the band. Like I said, I've had a friendship with Bill for a while, and I actually felt bad for you guys. I had fourth row seats, and even that close, you guys sounded like a garage band because Poison more or less robbed you of any kind of lights or sound or anything, and it just sounded tinny. Because obviously you guys had your MTV videos, and you guys were getting commercial radio airplay and, all this and that. And you go, okay, you're going to go to the show, and you're thinking you're going to hear this big sound you hear on the record. And all you sound is like you're playing ukuleles up there because of lack of the sound system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's very customary for bands that are maybe not as confident about their own playing abilities. We call it squashing the support acts. The opening bands, they rob them of lights, they take away a lot of their stage and everything like that so they can come out with their big production and everything and look like they're badasses. But you've seen us after that, obviously.
Yes, I saw you on the Rock Never Stops tour with Warrant, L.A. Guns. Let's see, it was Firehouse, Warrant, L.A. Guns, and
Quiet Riot on that.
Quiet Riot. Yep. You guys played a fireworks place out in the middle of a field out in Randolph, Ohio.
How glamorous. Rock and roll, baby.
But that was actually, when I got into radio, that was actually my first live remote that I set up for that. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, so I did a live remote for the radio show, for the Classic Metal Show, and interviewed you guys after the show, and it was a day gig, so but it was cool, and I believe that was the first time I met you in person as well. But,
well, that's probably sounded way better. I'm hoping, when you come and see a Firehouse show and you see us headline, I mean, still we were support on that tour, but we were treated very fairly because we were part of a package. You know, if you've seen us in theaters or venues since then, you've probably gotten a good idea about how we can sound.
Sure, absolutely.
How we normally sound.
Absolutely. And plus your bassist is a hometown boy from Canton, which I'm from the Akron, Ohio area originally. So that's very cool.
So is our front of house guy. The guy who runs the sound for us is a Canton Akron guy too. He's run sound for Dio, for Man of War and everything, and he is badass. I know he just did a couple winger dates here, and he's done stuff for Skids. He did Warrant. Warrant's actually borrowing our drummer this month right now because Stephen Sweet had some kind of a surgery or carpal tunnel or something like that, so Michael Foster is filling in for him. And Robert Mason actually called me and said, "Hey, dude, thanks for letting us borrow your drummer." It's like, no problem, man.
Well, all these bands in this whole era are very incestuous anyway. You know, so many guys play with each other and, you know, kind of switch places in bands and fill in and so on and so forth. But I know you guys got to, you know, I'm looking over the lineup of the people who played on this Cigar Chronicles, and you know, most of them I consider personal friends, such as he calls himself Sean Nichols now, but to us he's Sheldon Tarsha, and he did the Ice Baby, and Stevie Rochelle, of course, from Tough and Metal Sludge. You know, he's been a friend for a long time, and
he does Cheeseheads with Attitude as well, and
True.
They recorded here in my studio.
Is that right?
Yes, they did.
And then Tony Harnell, he's a friend, you know, been on the show many times over the years, as well as Phil Lewis. And...
I have a question. Before you continue with your list, when I was listening to the thing, you know, you guys talking about Cigar Chronicles and laughing my butt off, I didn't hear you critique Iris.
No, we didn't get to that one, even though that's a Goo Goo Dolls song. Yeah, we missed that one, obviously, but it wasn't because we were trying to skip it. It's just I think we just missed it in doing the show, because everything we do is not planned, you know, on the show. We just basically wing it, and we just grab one song to the next, and we probably just accidentally skipped over that. But did you have...
Yeah, I kind of scratched my head on that one and went, why?
It was
wonder why they did that.
It was probably just an accident, just an oversight.
Mm-hmm. But, I just got to tell you, Neely, with the Cigar Chronicles, I thought it was a really clever idea with Justin. You're going to have haters, and you're going to... It's like an anchovy. You either love it or you hate it.
Right,
you know?
Right.
Or, as my English friends would say, Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. I don't know if you know what that is or not, but it doesn't matter. It's just, there are a lot of things in life like that. You either love it or you hate it. And I had so much fun mixing this project and collaborating with people like you're mentioning, Tony and Phil and Kip and, you know, just on George Lynch. Wow, that was really cool. And with J.K. Northrup, who really masterminded this whole thing with Justin. Those two guys put all this together.
Sure. Well, I want to get your input on this, CJ. I mean, you've been in the music business a long time, and you came out, you know, in the end of an era, and obviously Firehouse has survived the tide through the 90s, which was a really horrific time for that style of music that you guys do, hard melodic rock. And, 2000 kind of opened the doors a little bit. That kind of music was sort of making a comeback. But, obviously it'll never be in the full force it was in the 80s and into the early 90s. But speaking of the Cigar Chronicles and the fact that it does contain a lot of covers, so we talk about this on the show all the time. And I want to get your take as a musician and somebody who, came from that era. What is it about all these cover songs? I mean, there are so many CDs out there, CD after CD, of, bands, mostly singers and guitarists from that 80s, early 90s era that do so many of these cover songs. I mean, Cleopatra has made a whole record label out of cover CDs. And we want to know, as a collective, why? What is it with the covers? Why is everybody doing so many covers as of late?
I want to know why too.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I agree. That's a good question because, as I said, I have a new CD getting ready to drop. Hopefully with the majors, we're shopping that right now. That's Rubicon Cross, and that's all original material. And some of it's on iTunes. You can listen to it. Listen to the snippets of it or whatever after we talk. And I'm serious. I really like your input, but I don't know, dude. Maybe because they can't write anymore. They ran out of ideas. I don't know.
Well, do you believe that's true? I don't think that they can't write anymore. It's just that I'm sure that you probably know, and maybe you can give us a little insight on that. There's just no money in it anymore. People are not selling tons of CDs anymore. Obviously, the money is in live performance because of, whatever contractual agreement you have with the promoter or the club or wherever it is you're playing. You're kind of in charge of your financial destiny there as to where a recording, if you shop it to a label, there's a high probability that you're not going to really make a lot of money off of it. And of course, with the illegal downloading and whatnot and people basically stealing the music, it's kind of a lost cause. So I can understand that. But we asked Justin this, and we don't ask for specifics, but what kind of financial benefit is there in recording covers?
Well, there's a friend of the show's and a friend of mine in the band, long-standing, Bill Leverty. He's been recording a lot of covers lately. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I asked him why, and he said, well, basically I'm working for minimum wage, but I do it as a labor of love. I guess it's something that he enjoys doing. He's a studio file, too, like myself, and, he's an artist. I guess he likes just throwing that stuff down. I can't really speak on behalf of the others because the only cover I can think of that I've done is like a Christmas thing, And then there was a Judas Priest tribute that Bobby Blotzer, the drummer from Rat, approached Firehouse and said, would you like to be on this Hellbent Forever collection? And we said, well, I'm a big Priest fan. I really, really love heavy metal, and I come from that Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Scorpions kind of old school stuff, And I think apart from the Christmas thing and the Judas Priest thing and this Pride in the Name of Love thing, I don't think I've ever recorded any other covers. So I can't speak on behalf of the entire genre, Neely. I don't know.
But
really, I wasn't even aware of it. But it's not really lucrative. You're right.
Right. Well, the question I have is only because I personally don't know anyone, friend-wise, fan-wise, that go, man, I can't wait till that new cover CD comes out of all, re-recorded Iron Maiden stuff or, Judas Priest stuff or, a tribute. I saw a tribute record put out to one of the guys who performs on this, YMCA, Kelly Keeling. A tribute to Kelly Keeling? Really? I mean, Kelly, obviously he does a lot of session work and, was the vocalist of Black and Blue and Blue Murder and so on and so forth. But can anybody really name a Kelly Keeling song? And paying tribute to him with a cover CD? Are you kidding me?
I never heard that. He sang YMCA on the record, on the Cigar Chronicles, right?
Right.
I think he did, yeah. And,
yes.
I talked to him during that, when I was mixing his song, and I said, this is a ballsy move, dude. I think Ted Poley had passed on it. A lot of people had passed on it. Because it's like, well, this is kind of like the gay anthem. No disrespect against anybody, but I mean, it's just like, you know, it's a sensitive thing, and this is also like the Macarena. I felt like that too, but I thought that the arrangement was really cool, and he stepped up to the plate and did it. Was anybody out there going, I can't wait to hear CJ Snare do a cover of U2's Pride
Well,
in the Name of Love?
that's kind of my point. It's like, who's buying this?
I'm with you. That's a question better asked to Mr. Murr.
Well, we did ask him, and you know,
what was his response?
Well, his response was, you know, I kind of control this, and you know, I don't have to share this with a label, and if I sell one of these CDs for $10 and it only costs me $1, I made $9 profit, you know, and you know, he kind of ran through the semantics to where it basically boiled down to where if he only sold 3,000 copies of this, he'd make $30,000 on it.
Which he very well might do. And, you know, I wish him nothing but success in all of them. I enjoy working with them. I like I said, the ability to collaborate with all these people on this, I wasn't thinking as a consumer. I was thinking of, this is going to be cool.
Sure.
This is going to be fun, you know, because it wasn't my record. You know,
right.
I was selling it, and Justin's going to be mad at me, but I'm going to tell you this. He'll laugh, though. I tried to convince him to break the Cigar Chronicles apart. I said, don't do a double CD, dude. I told him over and over again. If he is listening, or when he listens, he's going to laugh. Because I did. I wrestled with him. I'm like, make the covers one thing, do that independently, and then do your original thing, because I've heard a lot of good stuff about his the Cigar Chronicles second disc, original disc.
Love the originals. I like the originals. You know, I'm all for anybody who does originals, but you know, the covers thing, it's just overblown these days. But I won't harp on that. And like I said to you, Justin came on the show a couple of weeks ago. He stepped up to the plate. He owned up to it, said, this is what I did, and I'm proud of it. And we said, okay, we accept it. You know, we don't agree with it, but we accept it, you know, whatever the case may be. And he's got a great... Yeah. He's got a great sense of humor about it. And when he first came on the show, he basically played it off that he was so distraught over our review of the CD that he was currently in the studio re-recording the entire thing.
Well, I can tell you, I heard some drastic comments like, I'd rather put glass up my smash. And I was just going, oh, man.
Yeah, that's our fans. That's our fans.
It's great. Well, that's why I want to get my stuff to your fans, because I think they'll embrace it. You know, I got to tell you, I'm not a big U2 fan, okay? But I like the idea.
Sure.
And that's the whole. Justin is a great salesman.
Right.
And he'll tell you that. And the whole concept, the whole idea, conversely from what you said, and I took it with a grain of salt as a lampoon, as a Beavis and Butthead thing, and I had so much fun listening to it, because I've also heard other people saying, you know what, this is really cool, just like you said earlier.
Sure.
This is cool, this is an interesting take on this. But I haven't really heard anybody saying I'm rushing out and buying it yet, but I think they should take a listen to it.
Sure. Well, you know, we Chris and I were not very kind on the Jeff Pilson, George Lynch re-record of the Dokken classics in the Tooth and Nail. I mean, we were not kind on that at all. And actually, one of my very good friends, I mean, we're as close as brothers, Don Dokken, I sent him our review of the TNN, and he said that was the most brutal CD review I ever heard in my life.
Actually, I think that's when Justin sent this to me, he said they crucified this, or it was brutal, or something. I think brutal was used in there somewhere.
Right.
When I listened to it, it just, I've been doing this a long time, like you said, and if it would have been about a Firehouse CD or a Rubicon Cross CD, I might have felt it a little differently, but I've developed a thick skin over the years, and it's like, you know what? It's a song I stepped up to the mic and sang, and it was fun. So, you know what? I think your interview and your bashing of it was all in good fun, too.
Right,
Like,
and that's all it ever meant to be.
George Lynch.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's like, why the hell would these guys
Well,
do this?
actually, I had Jeff Pilson on the show about 3 weeks ago, and I railed him pretty good, and I've known Jeff for 20 years. And it's just like, dude, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And, he tried to put a good spin on it by saying, well, I always thought it'd be really cool to hear Doug Pinnick do this, and I thought it'd be really cool to hear Rip Rowan's take on this, and, it's all political, politically correct, regardless. But the thing is the guy stepped up to the plate, and he owned up to it, and he said, yeah, we did it, and we think it turned out cool regardless of your input, but I appreciate your thoughts nevertheless. And, there's no hard feelings there. It's all in good fun. And, hey, if you're hardcore, you'll go get it. If you're not, you go, all right, those guys had some fun with it.
And fair enough. We are musicians, and it is our job to create new music or interesting ideas musically that hopefully an audience will, embrace. And that's what we do. Some artists went through their whole lives and they were never well received or known of, and they died penniless and whatever. And then after the fact, posthumously, all of a sudden they're geniuses and they're recognized. And it's just the nature of the beast, I suppose.
Sure.
From Klaus Meine and Matthias Javs to, Stevie Rochelle, to myself, to everybody. I mean, we're all subject to the criticisms of everybody who does. I mean, Neely, how many songs have you written?
Not a one.
But you have every right to say, this sucks, and I love this. So there you go. That's the beauty of it. You got, as an entertainer, if you're going to put yourself out there, you got to be ready for that.
Sure.
I think.
And that's a good attitude to have, and you've been very cool about coming on the show and giving us your side, your viewpoint of it. And believe me, it was all in good fun, and everybody's been cool about stepping up and saying, you know what, I was involved and it was fun for me and I had a good time and I'm a musician and this is the part I played and I enjoyed your lampooning of what we do, and we'll do it again.
Can I swear on this show?
Absolutely.
Well, if you want to hear some of what I think is serious shit, I would love to hear your feedback of the Rubicon Cross pre-stuff. I mean, we have a whole album right now that was just mastered. Like I said, we did it. Rick Beato did it, and I named you some of the names. Bullet for My Valentine, Shine Down, Dark New Day. He's their producer, and he helped us with this. And this is that Chris Green guy from, I think you called it Furion. But it's Furion.
Okay.
That made me laugh. Or
right.
Rubicon Cross must be a Christian band, but it's not. It's actually a reference to crossing the Rubicon.
Okay.
Do you know about that? Julius Caesar and his campaign against Rome when he came back. There's a river in northern Italy called the Rubicon, and when he crossed that, it was the point of no return. There's no turning back.
Sure.
And so we kind of did a little twist on that name. And like I said, I really want your opinion on that. If you just drop me a note or something or call me back.
We'll bring you back on the show.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man.
Absolutely. All right, CJ. Well, you've been a good sport, and I appreciate the fact that you enjoyed our little lampooning and coming on the show and giving us your viewpoint. So, you spoke about Rubicon Cross and obviously Firehouse. So why don't you throw out all your plugs where people can check you out in all your various forms?
I think I already have. I mean, you can just Google Firehouse or CJ Snare or Rubicon Cross, and you'll find out, But I want to thank you for having me on the show. And, everybody is entitled to their point of view, and everybody is entitled to express it here in the United States of America. And that's what I love about this country, man. So more power to you guys. I do want, though, to hear a true opinion, and I know you'll give me a true opinion of original music from me.
Okay. Fair enough.
Is that a deal?
That's a deal.
Okay. Thank you so much, Neely. And Chris, I am so bummed out you're not on the show here, too, because I wanted to talk to you. Sure.
All right, CJ, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. And, well, since your bread and butter has been made over the last 20-some years with Firehouse, why don't you give us a Firehouse tune, tell us a story, and take us out of the interview with it?
Okay. Bill and I have written probably about, solely the two of us, 98% of the Firehouse catalog. I'll go back to the first album. Bill had a lot of little riffs and snippets and things like that. And, he would play them for me at times, and he had recorded some on a cassette tape. What the hell is that? A cassette tape. Anyway, and I took it back to my place, and there was this little lick that I'm like, that's it. And I played it to Bill, and I said, this is what we're going to do. And I'm like, go with me, guys. This makes no sense whatsoever, but it's kind of like a Tutti Frutti or a Wop Bop Loop Bop, a Wop Bam Boom. I said, I'm gonna sing about a thing called Shake and Tumble. Okay? And the little snippet was the intro riff to the song Shake and Tumble off the Firehouse debut album. And we turned it into this song about getting down and dirty, and that was actually the first Firehouse single. There was a radio station called Z-Rock, which is a metal station, and that actually got us started and broke us across the nation.
Out of Houston. They were out of Houston, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. So there's a little story and there's a little history about how we put that song together, and it actually kick-started our career.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, before I let you go, CJ, I need to ask you the traditional Classic Metal Show question.
What's that? Uh-oh.
How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
Is that really?
That is really the question we've been asking for 8 years.
How has he influenced my career? Well, I'm going to say Ace of Spades, probably like most people say. I liked Motorhead. I thought he was cool singing up into the mic like that when I was a wannabe. Now I'm a has-been, but I think it's better to be a has-been than a wannabe or a never was.
A never was, so, right.
Right. So here I am. But anyway, it's, I always liked the band Motorhead. I thought he was cool and tough, and I couldn't understand him when he spoke, and that's about it.
Excellent. All right.
That's a random question, so I give you a random answer.
There you go. All right, CJ, we appreciate it. Go check out CJ at Firehouse and Rubicon Cross and CJ Snare and all those good things, and catch Firehouse and Rubicon Cross out there somewhere in your neck of the woods. So we're going to take you out with a Firehouse tune, and what is it, CJ?
Shake and Tumble, baby.
Exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.